stay on. Just because you want to talk or eat this delicious piece of chocolate, we're going to keep the masks on because that's the way to do all of this safely. I'll remind us all as well, as I do periodically, that during these public meetings of the board where we do our monthly business, we will not discuss any personnel matters or student matters as a matter of law. So as I said, I'd like to remind everybody of the way our meetings are governed. So with that out of the way, let's call us to order and call the roll, please, Tammy.
Khan.
Here.
Muhammad.
Here.
Ellison.
Here.
McQueen.
Here.
Turner.
Sorry, I know you here.
Boom, boom.
My wife's watching. I have to sufficiently embarrass her.
All right. Well, I think that's mostly all of us. So the next item we need to address is the approval of the minutes from our last board meeting. Do I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
And do we have any corrections or edits or comments about any of that? Then Tammy, please call the vote.
Khan.
Yes.
Muhammad.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like again to just acknowledge anybody who might be watching us at home and to just say that while we are now meeting in person, we are not yet at a point where we feel comfortable opening these meetings to the general public. We're going to get there. And I think we're all moving in the right direction, but we're not quite there yet. We'll look forward to being back in our regular room and welcoming people to our meetings as we always have, but not quite yet. So we'll go on to item number 2. Board communications, which we'll acknowledge, and the community comments section. Once again, though we are meeting in person, if you have a comment you'd like to share with the board, like to enter into our public record, please do so in the chat function. Stephanie is over there staffing that chat function. If you want to make a comment, we can collect those and maybe we'll come back later in the meeting if you haven't had a chance yet to do your typing. To read those out loud so that they become part of the record. So I'll move now to item 2.3, our administrative reports. And have you rock, paper, scissors? Who wants to go first?
Well, we are in the gym.
Okay, well then I think that sounds like we have a winner.
It's great to be, this is my first official board meeting in person. Mills Lawns had a great month. We had a project with the music students. It's called Sign of the Times, so like think you can dance / you want to be a performance activist. And it started out with a video the students watched and about gun violence, and without actually an explicit message other than like enough, and they kind of got that from the piece. There were no words. And from that, they had a discussion about being a performance activist and what that meant and how they could think globally but act locally and try to still have impact. And so there's a on here you can't see obviously because it's a piece of paper, but there was a never mind. There was a slideshow that we shared with the board so that you guys can see it if you want. It's their performance activism piece. It's really good. And then Black History Month was the end of this month. It was very different. It was not how we usually celebrate, but I think we were able to do a really good job. We had a lot of engagement with the slideshow that we showed some of the slideshow samples at the last meeting. That slideshow grew as we did something for every single month. We did not have, we couldn't do it in-person assembly, so we did a virtual assembly, which was really awesome. And then with the staff all showed their solidarity. You see a picture there of us all in our shirts that had the theme of the month on there, which was the power of words. We all had all of the masks. You all have, there are masks for all of you in my office. I will give them to you after we leave this meeting. So there's masks so that you can all show your solidarity with us, the power of words. And I know everybody is even wondering how hybrid learning has been going, and it's actually been going. We are falling into a nice routine. The kids are enjoying bringing things back in the building. We've had very few, if any, I can't think of any issues that we've had other than kids not recognizing that on the days that they're not in person. They still have to do their asynchronous work, but that's just a normal kid thing. But our in-person attendance has been about 97% our first week, and it's been very positively received. So we are excited to keep moving forward and keep growing and seeing our kids back in the buildings.
I will only say, Michelle, I have a couple of friends with Mills Lawn children, and they are ecstatic. It's just so exciting for the little ones to be back in the building with their real teacher and not just on the screen. So that's great, and thank you for that. Other questions or comments for Michelle? Weird, I'm looking all around. All right, Jack, take us away.
All right, thank you. Like Michelle, we returned March 1st, and it's been so wonderful having kids back in our building. The sights and sounds and smells of the school are finally back. And it's gone very, very well. It's been a nice step back towards normalcy. One of our biggest concern, our primary focus was on safety, and our kids have been amazing. So we actually, the very first day, we had one student wearing a mask with their nose out, and that's the only time we've had anything documented or reported in the whatever we've been back 9 days now. So it's been so nice to see our students share that responsibility of community safety. The pictures you see there, that's actually our lunch period. So that's kind of the area of concern, I think, for so many people, because we have so many people in one space with masks off as they're eating. And you can see, how we've taken advantage of the space we have. We've extended our cafeteria and our eating spaces into our 8th grade hallway. Our middle schoolers are eating in the courtyard and outdoors for the first time. So it's been so great to have that shared responsibility. And I think really after the first day or two, everybody was able to just take a deep breath and say, this is going to be okay. And I think that was a big step in us transitioning. We are quickly into kind of the normal things we're doing. So Wednesday we had all of our 7th grade students in learning to ride bikes. So we had 3 7th graders that had never ridden a bike before learn how to ride a bike, driving around our parking lot. We had school pictures this week. So kind of all those things that you normally do, we're back to doing. We did offer a school picture session after school, so our students who were 100% remote could come in with no crowding, 2 hours, a 2-hour window that they could come in. So we're really trying to accommodate everybody and do so safely. So just a shout out to everyone for taking safety so seriously. And it makes me proud when I walk in and see everybody wearing masks, when I see our kids rolling up. As soon as they get out of their cars, they're putting their masks on, or they're riding their bikes in with a mask on. It's just nice to see that shared responsibility. When we came back, we added in an advisory period, and I talked about this briefly at the last board meeting that we were going to be doing this. And we're about 2 weeks in now, and it's been so amazing to see our teachers and our kids having that 30 minutes in the day it's structured, but it's unstructured, where they can focus on kind of processing, decompressing, building community, building a different sense of school culture. Our teachers have really kind of used that time almost like the first couple of weeks of school, where they're learning their kids, they're getting to know their kids, and the feedback that I'm getting is that this pandemic has had much more of an impact on our students than we really realized. So kind of the unpacking of this during that 30-minute period has been so important. When the weather broke this week, I went out there next year and was walking around, and we had like 12 different groups outside, laughing, playing games, talking, kind of engaged in that rich conversation. So it's hard when you're so focused on academic achievement to say we're going to take 30 minutes out of the day that's not focused on academics. But I think that we're going to get a return on that investment that's much greater. So I think it's a great use of our time. And it's something that's new for our teachers. And we actually went to a training in December, and that was what really inspired me to say this is something we need. And I think our long-term vision, and I've said this to the teachers, we're not going to get there this year around kind of the sense of community and culture that we build in that. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't start now. So I'm proud of our teachers for embracing it. I'm proud of our kids for embracing it. It's been really a wonderful 30 minutes in our school day. And then the last thing I want to report on is just our speech and debate team. So again, we are small but mighty, and we're transitioning our original group of students out. So Galen is now a senior. He was a freshman when we started this. And you'll see he actually just qualified for the National Speech and Debate Tournament. So it's a really remarkable achievement. And he's one of those students that every time I go in to talk to a class, if he's in there, I get a little nervous because he will debate anything. He's good. He's very good. But I'm proud of him because, this is something that he put so much work into. And when we think about extracurriculars, this isn't a traditional extracurricular that you think of, but the training and work and research and preparation that goes into it, for him, but then also for all of our other students. And our team is actually growing at the middle school level, which is really exciting, and I think that will go well for us, kind of in that team continuing to grow. But just remarkable the job that Brian does with those students and Cindy does with those students, and to see their growth. And really, the payoff is in their confidence. So when you see them, like in our ed visiting team, some of these students speaking in front of adults, the composure that they have, it's really phenomenal. So, and then the last thing that's not on here, I just want to publicly thank our teachers. So this has been quite a year, and I walked into the office Monday, and one of the teachers said, "You realize that this is the 5th different way we've taught in a calendar year." Ooh. And when that hit me, I thought, you know what? Nobody's complaining. People are working so hard. They're so proud. They're taking so much pride in serving our students. And I just want to publicly thank them for kind of the open-mindedness that they've approached this year with, the can-do-it attitude, their willingness to learn and try new things. I'm just proud of the staff, proud of the teachers, and I think that they've done a remarkable job for the kids in the community.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Jack. Quite right. I hadn't counted 5, and that's quite astonishing, really. And to think about, keeping the clock running while dismantling it, putting it all back together again, is quite a thing. I don't want to be intrusive, but I wondered if you could go back to the report on the 30-minute period you described. Could you give us just a general sense of the kinds of things you think students are wrestling with, struggling with as a consequence of the last 12 months?
Well, so, I think our students I've had numerous teachers report that our students are different in class. Kind of the way they're engaging, the way they sit and hear and listen and think and then respond, differently because you have to on a screen.
Yep.
So there's that, but then I think also just the disconnect, I think, is the biggest piece. The isolation, being away from peers, and then the thing that I've heard over and over is just that there was no motivation. Like the idea that when they're at home, that they just could not bring themselves to get out of bed, to log into the computer. And I actually had a student, and Miss O'Connor moved back to South Carolina this year, say to me, if she was here, I think I would be getting all A's because she just motivated me. And that's the kind of power that our teachers have, but it's hard to replicate that online. And I think that's the biggest piece that I'm hearing from out of that advisory period is just this idea that they miss the community, the connection, and then really the connection to the teachers. And I think that's one of the greatest assets of our district is the connection our teachers have with their students. And I think they're starting to get that back, and it's coming back quickly. But I think that had maybe more of an impact than we could imagine.
Well, I really appreciated the way you put it, that there has been so much concern about the academic deficiencies that students are going to experience, and that's all, that's important to worry about. But this other stuff, the other things that go on in the school, which are just as vital in terms of social learning and emotional learning, which they've also missed out on in this kind of isolated situation. So I really appreciate that you carved out 30 minutes for students to, start doing that kind of work as well.
And we've got advisories doing all different kinds of things. So we've created it, and I've given them a toolbox of tools to choose from. But I've tried to allow it to be organic, where the teacher and the students can do what works for them. So like we have one advisory, their focus is on school spirit, making school a happier place for everybody. One advisory is doing a community service project where everybody in their advisory period is going to go out and serve. So like our different advisories are doing different things, which I think is also really powerful.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for Jack? Well, thank you for that, Jack. And so I will now turn to Donna. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about the 100% online program since when we put that together. Starting in July, we had parents contacting us who had questions or concerns because originally we were going to try to come back hybrid at the beginning of the year. So we had about 50 families who were interested in that program, and we ended up starting remote. We only had 3 families from K to 5 programming that went to the online only program during the first semester. And then at the second semester, as there was more talk of coming to hybrid, we did have about 65 families interested, some of those same 50 that were back in July, and a few more. And we had 14 transition to the 100% online program at the beginning of the first semester, which is January 19th. And now, kind of like Jack said, that we've had all these transitions. It did feel, as we came back hybrid, like a mini beginning of the school year. And we had added about 35 students in all 3 buildings coming into the program. And then we've had some switches. So the numbers in my report actually changed a little bit. We had somebody withdraw, we had a couple changes, and since then we've had a couple more kids come back once they tried the online instruction. It is hard for parents, especially with younger kids, because they need somebody to help keep them on task and structure their breaks. And there is not a lot of teacher interaction, but it is an alternative, to our regular programming, whatever that may be, as we transition back to having more kids in the building more often. But they are still enrolled with us. They will still take state tests. They're still required to come in and take state tests. And I would guess that, as we get more kids in the building, really I've heard parents are more fearful, kids are wanting to come back. And so I'd say the majority of the kids who have switched back since into the hybrid instruction are because their children insisted that they come back. Children were contacting teachers and saying, I'm coming back, and parents were like, I'm not sure. And then finally the children went out. So the kids really do want to come back. But I will say, when we get this turnaround, we do need staff for the elementary and the middle school programs. Elementary is Lincoln Learning, is the name of that program, Lincoln Learning Solutions. And then Adventum Plato courseware is for middle school, which is considered 6, 7, and 8. And then Apex Learning, which we've used previously for credit recovery, is at the high school, 9 through 12. And with the elementary and middle school, there is grading that's required in those programs. Not everything is graded by the computer platform. And so things that are written might be graded with rubrics or require some teacher feedback. So we've had several folks step up to the plate when I've asked to take some time. They get paid. You're going to be board approving them today, and we're very fortunate to have them because they're doing all these switches, working all day, and then making contact with these kids and doing grading and following up with the parents to try to help the kids that are not coming back to some in-person learning. And I list off, we have several staff members that I really do have to thank and appreciate. Jennifer Scavone, Olivia Dishman, Sada Amin, Cheryl Lowe, Lexi Goodrich, Hillary Rupinoff, Naomi Hyatt, Cameron Dickens, Sean Jarzab, and then Shannon Morano, who is doing the high school program. So I wanted to let you know that they are all working very hard.
Questions? Well, thank you to the
it is actually nice to get a report about things that start to feel a little more normal. And that's, spring is coming. So we'll move to number 3 on the.
Community comments, and I've got a few.
You want to do those now?
I would
Yeah.
suggest that.
Okay, very good.
Okay, the first one is going to be, I'm going to try and do this the best I can. I'm going to start from the back, and it says, "My sincerest apologies for the amount of comments. This was a document I had typed out as I did not know about the word count in this chat. With that said, I thank you for your time and consideration." And this is from Echo Dickens. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute, they're typing and it's moving on me. This might, Echo Dickens, "I had to use this account for the sake of time purposes. I did not want to be late to the meeting." Okay. All right. Let me get to the top so I can read what she was actually saying. This is probably going to take me more than 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Yellow Springs School Board. I would like to thank you all for your time to hear me out. I understand you guys have a big night ahead of you, so I'll try to make this quick. Students and teachers are already overwhelmed with the fast transition into hybrid halfway through the third quarter and more than half through the end of the year. Teachers have been working hard to adjust and teach class from a computer staring at voiceless icons and bright computer screens for 7 hours of the day. It was tough, and for some of them it is still, but I would like to believe they understood why that form of teaching was and is needed. When we started back to hybrid this quarter, teachers were once again working very hard to adjust to class from both an online and in-person platform. I can't begin to understand how difficult and stressful that must be for them. However, I will say thank you for doing a great job in our unpredictable pandemic world where the school schedule consists of significant change throughout the year. Granted, everyone was leery about the hybrid schedule, and even I, a student at Yellow Springs High School, considered moving to the alternative option, but that would mean dropping my advanced placement classes, and that wasn't an option I found to be acceptable. I was extremely worried about how our staff would actually enforce the COVID-19 guidelines for the student body, questioning if students would willingly comply. Children and teenagers often do not understand the impacts of the virus and do not stop to think about what happens when they get it and who they put at risk. I am truly grateful to hear that our teachers got their vaccines, and I feel somewhat safer knowing they are protected, but I ask that you think about everyone else. The students do not have vaccines, and they go home to families who are not vaccinated. This continues the spread and increases the risk of adding to the tally of lives taken by this virus, a number that increases every day since the vaccines have been distributed to some of the population. There was a period there. A number that increases every day. Since the vaccines have been distributed to some of the population, the rest of the population seems to disregard this pandemic. It is not over yet. We learn more about the virus every day and have started to get new strands of COVID-19, even as we have yet to fully understand the first. This switch was difficult for everyone, students, teachers, and staff. We are all still working to get into a new routine. To make another big switch so late in the year would only add more problems to the many we are already working to solve. We are a small school with an even smaller building. Even in hybrid, we have crowded halls, lunch lines consisting of students closer than they should be for a world that is in a pandemic. Students are not even 3 feet apart in lunch lines. Careless kids are in bathrooms with their masks off. When the bells ring, the halls get crowded and the kids don't walk to class socially distanced. Although the caring staff of Yellow Springs High School does their best to keep the guidelines enforced, not all students will listen. As we know, children, teenagers, even adults break rules sometimes. But these rules, when broken, carry more weight than a suspension or a detention. When they are broken, we risk people's lives. That's a risk we don't have to take. Why should we push the limits? Why not finish this year out to adjust to the big change in schedule we have already made and continue trying our best to keep everyone as safe as can be given the situation at hand? Okay, I think that was all of Echo's comments. And then I have from Eric C. If the board and admin are serious about returning to full classrooms, please move your chairs and desks to show us on camera how close the children will be to each other. You are far apart here. It seems disingenuous to say everything is okay and we can safely return while you all sit 15 feet apart in an auditorium. Not trying to be snarky, just keeping things in perspective. Thanks. And then Eric apologized for interrupting. And Summer McGuire just says, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts, Echo. It means a lot to have, I think that's supposed to be that insight and perspective from a student directly experiencing it all. You raised some excellent points. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you for those, and thank you also for the, trying to balance your laptop there to read those. Appreciate those comments coming in. It's not easy to do on the chat function, but we do appreciate you taking the time to do that. So now we'll move on to item 3, which is our financial report. And Tammy, why don't you take this one? And correct me, of course, we don't have the visuals in this space. Well, I mean, we have those, but we don't have the big screen that we usually use, so sorry about that, yeah.
It's in your packet, if you
Yeah,
flip.
I know
Okay.
it's in the packet, but it's, it's harder for people to see.
Well, and they have it on the agenda online.
The monthly financial report is as of February 28th of 2021. And if you turn to page 4, this is what I want to highlight this month. And we actually have some good news regarding the finances. And as you can see on this page, the general property tax and the state foundation, as well as several other categories, the actual is trending above budget for the general fund. So I'm not sure if that will continue or not, but that would be good for us if it did. So overall, our total revenues for the 8 months of fiscal year 21 for the general fund are $280,000 over projections. And then on the flip side, on the expenditures, our actuals are under budget in every category except one, and that's just a small dollar amount. So we are under, the actual is under budget by around $417,000. So overall, when you look at our ending cash balance as of February, we are almost $700,000 ahead of budget. So I don't know how long that will last, but I will take that for now.
Let's have a party now.
Yes. So I don't have final settlement for the property taxes yet, so I won't be able to give you an update now, but we'll send that out to you whenever I receive that, and hopefully we'll have that for the next month. And then on page 5 is the comparison of the 8 months to the yearly budget. And then we have the graphs. Where does the money come from? Where does it go? And then also the percentage received of revenues and percentage spent of expenditures. And we have $6.1 million in the bank for all funds as of February. And then the remaining of the pages are the details in each fund balance.
This is the happiest financial report we've had in a while, and I am pleased that the initial, that at least much of the initial cut from the state has been restored. That certainly helps. And I guess, Tammy, I want to thank you in particular for navigating all of this, as all kinds of things have been trying since last March. Everything from the delay in the income tax deadline from April to July, and all kinds of other things. So I appreciate the steady hand that you've had on these numbers. Are there other questions on the monthly financial report? It's nice not to be, looking at red this time around, so that's very good. So we'll move to number 4 on the agenda, and that's the adoption of the financial portion of our consent calendar. I believe that's 4.1 through 4.4. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Walk us through anything that we need to know?
Okay. 4.1 on the appropriation changes, just some minor changes in some activity funds. And then I'd also like to point out that in addition to our state foundation being restored, some of our student wellness money was also restored, and that's a little bit over $31,000. 4.2, we requested RFPs for our copiers, our multifunction devices, and we are recommending ProSource, and that's our current company, for a period of 4 years at a monthly cost of $1,759. We're able to save at least $200 to $300 by going out to bid, and they were very aggressive with their pricing, so we're very pleased with that.
Right.
4.3 is approval of gap compilation services, and this is with Ron Felter to prepare our gap statements. And then number 4.4 is the acceptance of amounts and rates, and we adopt this every year at this point in time, so the county auditor
Right.
can levy the tax rates and then collect those property tax monies for us.
Great. Questions about any of that? All very straightforward. Please call the vote.
Mayor Hammond,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Khan.
Yes, and thank you again for that. Moving on to number 5, our superintendent's report.
Okay, board, let me grab it here. The first item in my update is about our summer programming. So the state of Ohio has requested all districts complete an extended learning plan for the summer and submit that plan by April 1st to the state. This is it's a recommendation, not a requirement, and really a relatively short turnaround time. But the way it stands now, I think we'll provide a link for that, and then we can update it at any point. So part of this requirement is really for us to ask parents and students, what do you need after this year? What do you need in terms of academic support, social-emotional support, wellness support? So to that end, we sent out a survey last week. It's due tomorrow. We have a considerable number of responses already, but parents were asked, we asked for a grade level, and then would you be interested in summer math support for your child? Would you be interested in summer reading or English language arts support for your child? Would you be interested in having your child attend a summer enrichment experience either in music or art? Would you be interested in having your child attend a summer enrichment experience in the environmental sciences or outdoors, for example, biking or hiking? Would you be interested in high school credit recovery for your child? And then health and wellness. So we're getting some pretty good responses. So after we get those tomorrow, I'll meet with the administrative team, and then we'll meet with teachers and kind of start to craft these opportunities. And so right now they're designed to run from, I believe, June 7th through July 2nd. About 4 hours in the morning. So as we flesh that out, I will certainly make sure you're aware of all of the specific programs. But that addresses the big ones, reading and math. And then the outdoor piece and the music and art is really to
how do we kind of really start attending to some student loans? The second piece is, and I was looking for it in my folder, if you remember last month, we approved a revision to our tobacco policy. So it was the second reading. And so we got a grade from the state of Ohio. We got an A+. And so now that aligns us with all of the other districts in Green County. So if you remember, we adjusted our policies to include 24/7, and I think we didn't have one for administrators, so that's what we did. So kudos, an A+ on that. And then finally, in my update, I just want to remind everyone that we have our next community forum about facilities next Wednesday, March 17th, from 6 to 7:30, and you can find the link to that forum on ysforward.com.
Would that be next Wednesday, March 17th, at 6 o'clock?
That would be next Wednesday, March 17th.
Excellent, March 17th at 6 o'clock. Yeah, we do really want everybody who can do that to join us, even if it is via Zoom, to participate in this forum. It's the information we get from this, the conversation is really, really important, so thank you for that. And that's on your agenda?
That's
it?
That's
Okay.
it for my update.
Great. So then we'll move on to number 6, the administrative portion of our consent calendar. This is 6.1 through, I think it is 6.11. Let me just double check. Yes, 6.1 to 6.11. Do I have a motion?
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
let me start with the big one.
Yes.
Normally, board, I present, I have a presentation, and tonight I have comments, so they're rather lengthy, so if you bear with me. Before we discuss my recommendation to return 100% in-person learning, I would like to start by thanking parents who have reached out via emails and letters to express their position about students returning to school. I certainly acknowledge that there are differing opinions in the community about returning to 100% in-person learning, and that these opinions reflect both the excitement about the possibility and fear at the prospect. I want parents to feel assured that student safety is the priority of everyone in this school district. I want to review the district's path during the COVID-19 pandemic beginning on March 16, 2020. Yellow Springs School students spent the final 47 days of the 2019-20 school year in a 100% remote learning environment. Yellow Springs School students started this school year on August 27, 2020, in a 100% remote learning environment. Students have spent 109 days learning completely remotely, a good portion of it asynchronously without direct contact and interaction with their teachers or their peers. Since last March, that is a total of 156 days of remote learning. As of today, March 10th, March 11th, they have completed another 5 days of learning remotely and 2 or 3 days of in-person instruction. Compared to other districts in Ohio, our response to the pandemic has certainly been much more conservative. There has been much talk recently about the December Bulldog Blueprint. I would like to take us back to the evolution of that document. At the October 8th board meeting, I discussed a transition plan for the district to consider a return to school, either hybrid or full in-person format, at the start of the second semester in January 2021. A district work group was tasked with creating the plan, which became the December Bulldog Blueprint. In the plan were metrics for return to 50% hybrid instruction or 100% in-person instruction. There was nothing magic about these metrics. They were largely state and county-based metrics readily available on the coronavirusohio.gov website. The zip code data, also available on that website, provides a more community-based rather than county-based look at COVID-19 rates in a particular area. In the end, we landed on a combination of county data and zip code data, with the county data carrying more weight. The COVID-19 landscape began to change at the turn of the year as vaccines moved from a promise to a reality. The district publicly displayed the COVID-19 metrics each week, and we continued in January with a 100% remote learning environment. Governor DeWine, during the week of January 4th, indicated that he would be deploying vaccines to Ohio's teachers, but only those teachers in districts that committed to returning to school hybrid or in person by March 1st would be prioritized for the vaccine. I committed the district to that. Why? It has been our intention all along to return to an in-person learning environment to be a hybrid or 100%. The March 1 date was just a little earlier than anticipated. Even though I may not have liked the governor's ultimatum, I made a professional and ethical decision as the leader of this organization to protect my staff. Having district staff vaccinated makes it that much safer for them to teach our children. I do understand that many adults in the community have not had the opportunity to get vaccinated yet. That, unfortunately, I cannot control. But we must take the steps we can take, and this was one of them. We returned in a hybrid manner on March 1st, with Mills Lawn students attending in person just 2 half-days a week, and the remaining days a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. And the middle school, high school students attending in person 2 days a week and learning asynchronously 3 days a week. While we did not meet the metrics that had been established in the December Bulldog Blueprint in all areas for a hybrid return, COVID-19 numbers were falling. Additional guidance from health agencies comes out almost daily. Despite the slow start with the vaccine rollout, more and more Ohioans are able to get the vaccine, particularly now with the availability of the Johnson & Johnson. Even with the COVID-19 variants increasing, numbers have been going down. There is indeed information we do not yet know about this virus. But the body of knowledge we have now is immensely greater than what was known a year ago. As I mentioned previously, metrics in the December Bulldog Blueprint are largely county metrics. Advice from a variety of health organizations suggests a more accurate measure is community spread. For us, that is the 45387 zip code. As of March 11th, there have been no, let me say that again. As of March 11th, there have been no new cases in Yellow Springs for the past 2 weeks, and only 15 cases during the past 30 days. Because we have open enrolled students, we do look at other zip codes as a point of reference. Those numbers too have been decreasing, but our driver is the 45387 zip code. I've provided a table for you that I wanted to readily available information. As of March 3rd, of the 609 Ohio school districts, 70% are full-time, 5 days a week instructional setting. 29% are in an all-hybrid instructional setting, and only 1% are in a fully remote or partially hybrid instructional setting. In addition to the negative academic and mental health impacts a complete virtual learning or hybrid setting has on students, these types of academic settings also put incredible demands on parents and families. Yellow Springs is a unique place where many parents can work from home and or have options for monitoring their children who are receiving their education at home. However, this does not apply to all parents. As time goes on, this becomes an issue of equity and privilege. We can help address this by returning fully to school. There is an incredible amount of research to guide our return. I want to share some excerpts from recent studies and articles. I will share a list of these studies and articles on our website next week. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, released new operational guidelines for K-12 schools on February 26th and March 1st, as well as new guidance for fully vaccinated individuals on March 8th. A John Keefe New York Times article on March 2nd, titled, "Should Your School Be Fully Open?" Here's what the CDC says. References that very CDC guidance that full in-person learning can occur in areas where, in a particular county, there are fewer than 50 new cases per 100,000 people in a week and a 7-day positivity rate of less than 8% with recommended mitigation procedures in place. Mask wearing, social distancing of 6 feet or the greatest extent possible, and regular hand washing and facility sanitation. Although there are many counties in the country that cannot meet these metrics, a CDC spokeswoman stated that the recommendations were not intended to deter in-person learning, and that the CDC objected to categorizing counties by recommendation level, adding that decisions about learning mode, full in-person, hybrid, or virtual, at each individual school should be made based on a combination of factors, including levels of community transmission, mitigation, and the number of cases in the school. Another March 2nd New York Times article, in their own words, why health experts say elementary schools should open, referenced a survey of 175 scientists and doctors who work in academic research, studying infectious diseases in children, or who are healthcare providers. Those polled largely agreed that with appropriate safety measures, certainly for elementary children, the benefits of attending school in person far outweigh the risks. The respondents were more supportive of broad reopening than the CDC was in recent published guidelines, given the fact that schools in the U.S. and worldwide have opened with minimal in-school spread. Most of those quoted in this article emphasized the need to rely on science and not on emotions or fear to guide decisions. These doctors expressed concerns about not reopening in person for students that range from academic harm to mental health concerns. One comment from Matul Kapadia, Associate Clinical Professor at the University of California, San Francisco, who is the Director, Pediatric Psychiatrist at, I believe it's Benoff Children's Hospital. This quote has stuck with me. "I wish people trusted the science. I wish people trusted the medical professionals and public health experts who have dedicated their careers to taking on these exact issues of school reopening. The science is clear. Kids are suffering, families are suffering, and trying to navigate as workers, parents, teachers, psychologists, and social workers, all simultaneously." Finally, a January 5, 2021 report from the American Academy of Pediatrics, titled COVID-19 Guidance for Safe Schools, makes the following assertions and recommendations. 1, opening schools generally does not significantly increase community transmission. 2, to be able to keep schools safe, it is vitally important that communities take all necessary measures to limit the spread broadly of SARS-CoV-2 throughout the community. 3, schools must take a multi-pronged layered approach to protect students, teachers, and staff. By using different approaches, these layers of protection will make in-person learning safe and possible. 4, the American Academy of Pediatrics strongly advocates that all policy considerations for school COVID-19 plans should start with the goal of having students physically present in school, and the goal faces from the actual report. 5, although ideally schools could open in communities with low transmission, there is mounting evidence of the low transmission within schools, even in communities with escalating community transmission. 6, in many school settings, 6 feet between students is not feasible without drastically limiting the number of students. Some countries have been able to successfully reopen schools after first controlling community-wide spread while using 3 feet of distance between students and without increases in community spread. 7, schools should weigh the benefits of strict adherence to a 6 feet spacing rule between students against the potential downside if remote learning is the only alternative. 8, further, while these guidelines support the concept of cohorting, strict adherence to a specific size of student groups should be discouraged because the size of cohorts will vary depending on many factors specific to individual schools and even individual classrooms. And lastly, educate students and families on the importance of mitigation measures when not in the school building. Numerous reports from local jurisdictions show that school-associated outbreaks are often associated with students congregating outside the school setting, where mitigation measures such as mask and distancing are ignored. Board, I ask that you remember our goal all along has been to return to school in a 100% in-person capacity as quickly and safely as possible. That is why we had several windows for parents and families, as Donna mentioned, to choose an all-online option if they did not want their children to return to school in person this year. We know how to do virtual learning. What would cause a district to return to an all-remote instructional approach? That might happen if there was a significant reversal in increasing community spread. But right now, numbers are decreasing and our staff will receive their second vaccination tomorrow. It is time to return. It is my recommendation to the board that we return beginning Tuesday, April 6th, to a 100% in-person learning environment, 5 days a week. I know my initial discussion with you about this at the Saturday work session was a thought about a 4-day return. Upon reflection and talking to some teachers and parents, 5 days provides us a consistency that we need. We may have to adjust the Wednesday schedules to accommodate training if it cannot be moved, but we can make this happen. Tomorrow I will propose to teachers, upon approval, if excuse me, that during the week of March 31st, when we return from spring break, we have just an AB, and that Friday will be a no-school day for students so teachers can finalize preparations for the in-person return for Monday, April 5th. Our protocols for health and safety, face coverings, classrooms, cleaning procedures, lunch procedures, always in recess and transportation, have already been spelled out in previous Bulldog blueprints, but will be posted on the district website very prominently by end of day Monday, March 15th. It should also be noted that we will have another tool to assist us in maintaining a safe environment in school. Governor DeWine announced in his press conference today that the state will be sending 200,000 rapid COVID-19 tests to educational service centers in Ohio so that districts will be able to partner with their local ESCs to provide an at-home test to students and families. We have an excellent relationship with the Greene County ESC, and this will allow us to be proactive and keep all of our students safely in school. I'm happy to share.
Well, Terry, thank you very much for the thoroughness and the thoughtfulness of that. I guess what I'm wondering procedurally here is that there's a stack of other things here. Should we go ahead and discuss this and then we'll just deal with the other ones later, or do we want to just, how do we feel? Talk about this now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Who'd like to get us started? Questions or? Well, then it's going to be me. Well, Terry, as you know, because we've talked about this one-on-one, I think this is the right thing to do. I think you are quite right to have said that we the district, has been very conservative about how we approach all of this. We watch the numbers rigorously. And I think that, as you put it a moment ago, the risks of keeping our students at home far outweigh the risks of the virus itself. And So I will say for myself, I'm very excited about this. I appreciate all the research that you've done and that you have been watching all along. I think the way that you have summarized it all there is immensely helpful, but I'm certainly very pleased that this is on the table for our consideration.
I don't know if this is a question or just sort of.
But you're going to have to turn the volume up or speak more closely to the mic.
Okay. So is this better? Good or not? Okay. I guess just some feedback, and maybe that will turn into questions, I don't know. I appreciate your explanation about, I think over the long haul, we've all been really used to looking at the county numbers, especially with the whole, year of July news conferences and varying frequency. But I appreciate you highlighting why it's important to look at this point, our more local community spread numbers, because that does reflect, and I think there is some confusion about this, which is why I wanted to comment on it a little bit, because I know questions I've received indicate some confusion. So, if we focus heavily on the Yellow Springs zip code, and then there are questions about, okay, but what are we missing about what we might be experiencing as people navigate outside of Yellow Springs, or we have also people navigating into Yellow Springs from other zip codes. And so to just try to make that clear, because I do feel as questions I've received have indicated confusion. That's exactly why it's good to look at the Yellow Springs zip code, is because it's your residential zip code. It's not about what's happening in Yellow Springs regardless of where people live. It's what's happening to residents of Yellow Springs regardless of where they go and come back and where other people come in and then return to. So if our community spread in Yellow Springs is going down, it's reflective of residents' experience, not just what's happening inside a geographic bubble. I hope I'm making sense when I'm saying that, because I've been struggling to try to clarify this for some people. I also think it is helpful for you to acknowledge some of the other things that have changed over time. There's so much knowledge about the virus and protective measures and everything that have changed over time, as well as acknowledging what we still don't know. But even just masking, which I think is a good example, I think the evidence about masking is very clear. At first we had that kind of brief period of time where it was advised against. I think that was largely motivated because in the beginning, the thought was we didn't want protective equipment that was important for people in hospitals to be kind of hoarded by people for their non-professional home reasons. We got that taken care of, and also we began to really recognize how we could help each other by wearing masks, and then over time it's been more established that we also are protecting ourselves by wearing masks. And so a lot of the success here would be predicated upon high level of adherence to these pretty simple things. Wear a mask correctly and consistently. I have no patience for that anymore as a person in public health. If I see your nose, I probably need to excuse myself from the room. Keep your hands clean because we all touch stuff and touch our face and all that stuff. And if you can do a really good job with those, then yes, we don't want people all on top of each other, but the distance thing can be mitigated a little better. Well, no, there was something else I was going to say now, I forgot it. Oh my goodness. But I guess I appreciate the thoughtfulness, and I appreciate trying to, in your remarks, summarize an evolution of knowledge from, novel virus, we really don't know what we're dealing with, to more a body of knowledge of what we can do to be safe, and acknowledging the other kinds of health needs that we have that are not taken care of so well when we all just hide out at home. I will also say personally, in my family, I struggle with this because of where one of our, children, well, he's really a man now, but needs to go. So it's not like a from on high, you gamble with your family's life and I'm just, hiding out kind of thing. It's a struggle, but I really appreciate the thoughtfulness here and trying to get us back to somewhere where we are being safe and responsible, but also bringing kids back to where they really need to be. I feel like that wasn't really very elegantly done, but this is hard, this is hard stuff.
Absolutely. Other,
I just want to appreciate.
Maybe- yeah,
it's
Mike.
I'm sorry, I'll speak louder, I can't do that. I appreciate the equity aspect that you brought into this. There are just a lot of people who would rather come to me personally because they do not like to go on social media or don't feel that they can speak as well or write as well, or feel like they would just be ignored, who will gladly come to me personally and be like, these issues, I see what they're saying here, but it looks like they never talk about any of the issues I'm having, which is I don't have the time to waste on social media saying that these are the issues that me and the kids are having. And so, and that's a tough thing to get out, especially when you don't have those, when you're another person that doesn't have the issues and you try to say it, people are like, well, why are you saying it? Where are they? And so I just wanted to take the time to really go, like, it really is, it's out there. There's several parents who are absolutely dying for something to happen when their kids can go back to something that was. Because and the kids are expressing it, the parents are expressing it, the communities are saying it. Whether you're putting a poll on or a survey or something on social media, you're not reaching as many people as you think. It's a very, I'm glad that you just said that, like, look, there really is a big push for this. I still want to say that, yes, I'm sure, just like any other parent, can be nervous community-wide. Several things seem to be coming all at once, so that also makes it a little more nerve-wracking. It's not as slow as a lot of people would like it, where it's just this, then just that. It's kind of like, we're going to allow several things all at once. That can also be nerve-wracking, but I do believe that we can do it. I do believe we're small enough and conscious enough to do it. And but I just really want to also speak up even louder for the parents and the guardians who are out there really saying this often and are constantly asking, when can we do something that's more than 1 or 2 days, something that's more regular. It needs to be said. And so I just wanted to sort of reiterate even louder that that's definitely a concern for several.
Well, I want to appreciate your thoughtfulness too, Terry. I know this has been an impossible situation and, of course, unprecedented one. I think all along you've been concerned about our kids. That has been of the utmost importance and concern for the families. I think when we heard at the work session around how the kids were coming back in this approach, and then there was going to be a 3-day week and a 4-day week, I found myself sort of going, oh, that's such a nice, gentle re-entry, because this is going to be so difficult for everybody. But I think it is time to be back, and I'm glad that you're encouraging that at this point. Again, doing the best we can in a very, very, very difficult situation. And I know you've been looking out for your fellow administrators, the teachers, the staff, and the students and the families. So I can't imagine having that entirely on your shoulders and trying to juggle it. And I feel like you've been incredibly inclusive in terms of trying to hear and pay attention to all the information that's coming out, both, in the scientific community as well as in our local community, listening to people.
Anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, I guess I don't really have a lot to add overall. I mean, I think that it's good to be flexible in all things, right? And following the science and watching the numbers, and I think we've been very conservative and clearly with kids back in school elsewhere, you can see what's happening ahead of us. So I agree with you, it's time to go back, and I think my kids, obviously all of them will be back. We've been fortunate, my wife is home with them, right, and can be there with them, and I'm working from home a lot, so they get that attention that they need. But even with them, and such a privileged position, they're still able to, as going back, you can see that there's excitement and that there's going to be a huge benefit for all of them. So I can only imagine kids who don't even have the position that we're fortunate enough to have, how much they'll benefit. So I agree.
And I just, I'll just underscore what other Steve said over here. We can do this. We can. I'm really confident. I'm looking at Jack, I'm looking at Michelle and Donna. We can do this, and we can do it safely, and I'm confident that this will be the right thing for kids.
Well, and I think we also have faith that, things change. We know that we can change.
Absolutely.
It, right? So this isn't a rigid decision that has to remain in stone. I know that you guys will be watching carefully. So.
Thank you. We're not throwing caution to the wind.
Right.
Right. Anybody to get, we have protocols and safety procedures in place.
Right.
And we're also not pioneers. We're really settlers in this because there are lots of places, lots of schools doing this.
Right. Well, again, from all of us, thank you for that presentation. I think that was really useful in a whole host of ways. It seems a little anticlimactic to now talk about bus driver. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was trying out one more thing.
Sure.
I also just wanted to say that while we're highlighting the planning for what will happen and what is happening, because with the hybrid, they're back in the buildings for a certain amount of time already. While we're highlighting what happens in the school buildings with students and staff and teachers and everybody, just for everyone to remember that anything that anybody is doing in the community outside of school will also impact how well things go for our schools. And so to really keep that in mind, because if people can be more, careful, and I would say responsible in the community, then that will have an impact as students come in and out of school and adhere to safety measures in the school buildings. But you've got to think about what you're doing when you're outside too. All of us have to think about it. Even if we don't ever go in and out of the school buildings, we're impacting kids and teachers and everybody's chance to be safe.
Well put. Terry, are there, in this, in the rest of this motion here, there are a bunch of other stuff, though nothing nearly as significant. So are there other things you want us to address or pull out or want to
I
explain?
think 6.2 through 6.4 are standard.
Yep.
6.5, there is a revision to both student codes of conduct for a new COVID safety violation. I believe, as Jack mentioned, that our students are responsible and know what to do, but this just says we indeed are serious about this, and we will consider that. So that's an update to the code of conduct. 6.6 is just the OPSI version of the YSCA document we approved last month. 6.7, I want to talk about just a little bit. Apparently in the past, we've had an agreement with the local American Red Cross to allow them to use our facilities in the event of a local disaster. And they are asking if we do it again. And I think it's the community-minded thing to do and hope that it never happens, right?
Right.
And then 6.8, the land sale for the bike.
We are.
Yeah, and then 6-9, honestly, board president, is safe routes to school. We've talked about this. Craig and I went out and walked part of Limestone, where they're going to install sidewalks, just to verify that it does not, federal law requires that it does not impact any student playground, and it does not. So this is just kind of the approval that we've checked it out and the sidewalks are good where they are, and then the process will continue into the fall.
Great.
And then, importantly, district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. So I want to thank the following donors: Sarah Sinclair Amend of a Glitterbug hand hygiene kit to Mills Lawn, Eric Clark for time spent beautifying Mills Lawn Elementary School grounds. In other words, he picked up all of the dog waste that people leave. So I thank him for that because it is a thankless job. And there are additional signs in the yard with mailboxes and bags, so I would ask residents to please remember when you walk your pets on school grounds. And then donations through the Yellow Springs Community Foundation to the Yellow Springs Athletic Fund. Kirsten Friedman, Ted Morgan, and Sunrise Cafe, Calypso Grill and Smokehouse. We thank you for your public and financial support of the schools. We couldn't exist without you, so thank you.
Okay, then, I think we're ready to call on vote on that motion.
Allison?
Yes.
McQueen?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Hahn?
Yes.
Mayor Hammond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you again for that. That was exciting and important, and I appreciate all of that. So we'll now do the personnel portion of the consent calendar. This is our item number 7, and we've only got one item here, 7.1, motion.
So moved.
Second.
These are personnel schedules.
Yep, board, I ask you to approve the personnel schedules as presented. That would be Schedule A, resignations, Schedule B, certificated employment, C, support staff, E, extracurricular and supplemental, and F, volunteers.
Questions about any of that? Then let's have a vote, please.
McQueen?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Hahn?
Yes.
Mayor Hammond?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Okay. So those are the items that we need to get through for this month. So we'll move now to item number 8 on our board communications. We'll start with our report from the Career Center. I'm hoping, Steve, that you noticed I am representing tonight with the Career Center.
Oh, it's that time.
It's that time. You're on. Your time to shine, my man.
Okay, yes, this is the first time I've got to wear a mask to a meeting, and this is the new logo for the new school. I wanted to have a new logo, and so today I get to show it to you, which is nice. We've had it for quite a while now. It's getting towards the end of this first year, and the interesting things that are coming up are prom, which the Career Center does in prom. I didn't even know that. But it turns out it's not a very big function. It's usually just completely run, decorated full 9 by the seniors that night. And if there's enough, they'll definitely just sort of have it. That hasn't been discussed on the how or why, because we need to talk to sort of all the other schools about whether they're doing it, if they're doing it, if they're allowing other schools to be a part. If you date someone from another district, are they going to allow that? There's several things too, it seems like we need to talk about, at least Career Center-wise, how that would work. So, yeah, that's a really difficult one. However, our senior recognition is the same thing as graduation. We definitely are going to have, the Nutter Center does have the space to completely have it spaced out for students to bring, it looks like at least 4, but maybe up to 6 students, depending on sort of exactly how they want it to look. It can't look like it looked last year, so there seems to be some planning to that. But it's definitely going to happen May 25th at 7 p.m. at the Nutter Center for those students who are seniors.
That's exciting.
And yeah, to say the least, very much so, especially for the students. They've been there all year, so it's not much of a reunion sort of. The March 1st wasn't a reunion for them in any way. However, they will get to see everybody's been in their department, so if you cook, you've only been around other cooking students. If you wield, you only are with building construction, that sort of thing. So there is sort of and this is why I think prom might be bigger, because a lot of students haven't really seen each other. It's a new building, it's huge, and they've also been pretty departmentalized, so this may actually turn out to be a bigger affair than it has in the past, so looking forward to that. Then there's the state recovery plan that was mentioned by the governor, and we're just not exactly sure what that's about. It sort of was mentioned, it hasn't been mentioned again, but there's sort of this, if time needs to be made up, here are 3 options, and then they've really not said much. And as a coercion, it's pretty difficult. That would be something we would need sort of like a lot of info on now, and that's not how the state tends to do what's done. We sold a building, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of that, and that has tremendously, that and sold several things from the inside, which accumulated about 1.8 altogether if you count the stuff inside, which is a huge thing to us. That will allow us to be able to stay in the forefront with all the new technology. We're pretty much state of the art, so we'll be sort of ahead of the game with a little bit of, not really to spare, because it all goes right back for career centers, because everything has to be so completely up to date constantly. So there's no such thing as sort of extra money for the career center. And yes, that's all there it is.
Report from the GCCC.
Steve, Todd's worried that extra money is going to make kids here from the Rankin County Career Center board dinner, so he's going to park.
Exactly, right.
To go back.
Better dinners now with all that.
I don't think they can do better.
Nice. Any other board member items for this evening?
I guess I would just like to thank all the community participants and all of the committees that have been going on around our facilities. There have been a lot of people using up their valuable time and giving it to our schools and our district and our community. I'd like to say thank you. I'd like to say thank you to the administrators and the staff who are participating as well. As both Michelle and Jack said, teachers are working really hard, and they're even working harder by participating and putting themselves out there in that form as well. So my great appreciation for that. I've been sincerely touched by our students who are participating. They have been incredibly brave and bold in speaking out. And letting their sort of opinions and recommendations and suggestions known, and the teachers, I think, have really come forward as well. So it's been wonderful to witness that, and experienced that. I can't imagine that you all aren't very proud of your students, because it's pretty impressive. So anyway, just want everybody to know that's happening. And again, I'd like to ask people to attend the community forum as well on the 17th at 6 o'clock. Get some valuable information.
Anything else?
Very,
really-
right for the test,
Say that again.
the fire department, did we already think,
Did we talk about the fire department testing site?
and thank you for
The COVID kit?
Yeah, for the-
Yeah,
for the
the
families.
instant kind of,
Yeah, just that we think of.
Yeah, I don't know that we did.
I feel like we only had a work session, it seems like it happened right after our last meeting.
That may be right, so yes, yeah, appreciate that, great deal.
Yeah, to say the least.
So the board is now going to enter into an executive session. We will not return to vote on anything after this session, so this will conclude the public portion of our March 11th meeting. Do I have a motion, please, to go into executive session?
second,
Okay, call the roll, please.
So moved.
okay.
TJ and then Aida.
Turner,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Hammond,
Yes.
Allison. Yes. McQueen.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you all, and those of you who are watching this at home, much appreciated. And we look forward to, continuing to move ahead for the rest of this strange school year. We'll dismantle the